This is IBM Museum. Sometimes I just wish I could go through and record live or a portion of what I do as I work with the different systems here, because I'll try and replay a little bit of the process I did, even go through the screen captures and things like that. I'm going to do it a little bit differently on the screen captures. I'll actually go off screen, and since I have my LCD screen behind me to see things and be in front of the system to kind of manage things, I'll do it from there. But we will have a little bit of a video screen capture as well. This is the PS2 Model 50 that I found in such pristine shape and did that past video on it. Well, we've got some nice discoveries that I've made. So let me get the camera off and get flipped around, and I'll just start going over the details of what I discovered. Okay, and a little bit where that video left off was that I had the Model 50, and it had a hard drive already in it, which is this one. I had a second hard drive that I went through and tried, and that also gave me an error. So I kind of went through and I ended the video without really any further work. We weren't able to look at these drives. They seemed like they weren't working. The machine was giving the 1790 error codes or something to that level. And that's just, the hard drive does not work. And in the meantime, I went through and I found a third drive. And as I say, I wish I would have recorded that earlier portion in a way, because I went through, connected it in, and to the controller, that I had on the Model 50, and it didn't work. It gave me the same error. And I was kind of glad for getting the same error in a way. We just have to remember that these things are a subsystem. This is the 50, the original Model 50, not the 50Z. What the 50Z did, and I don't really have any of the drives or the riser that is in this position for the hard drive to show, but on the 50Z, they went through and they replaced this hard drive assembly. They have a riser that all it does is connect up from that microchannel slot, the fourth microchannel slot that's on the planar, and goes through and just wires it up to another wider pin that's as wide as these drives. And that's what they call that DBA, or direct bus attachment, ESDI drives. And so all the drive and the controller, they're on that same assembly, on the drive assembly. And so it's like a predecessor to IDE in that sense, where it just attaches to the system bus. And the hard drive, it has, there's the BIOS recognizes that interface and everything else for the system, but it goes through and runs that drive as an integrated unit. Now I have to remember there's two pieces to this here. And let me just start pulling things out. So we're pressing the latches on either side, and we're just sliding this. All we have to do is just slide it out of the way for now. If I can get these latches down far enough. And again, I don't want to put so much pressure that I bust things. We're just going to slide that off out of the way till where it's free of this controller. And I have that original controller that I have back in place here. And let's go through and pop it out. You guys kind of remember it's got that fourth microchannel slot down there. It's straight microchannel, just with this adapter, this riser, cutting off the back part. There's not any back bracket off of here. And this is about a 1/2 inch shorter than the of what a standard microchannel adapter would be, with that back bracket assembly. And there are even IDE risers that go in here from that Procom, like we've covered for the 55SX. they had that a model for a version for the Mul 50 here that had an IDE connection, so you could run an IDE drive in here instead of the proprietary drive. And this drive is proprietary to only this system with the connections and everything else. At the same time, I mean, they were close together. I did find a hard drive for the PS2 Model 30-286. And this is the interesting one where this is the 45 megabyte hard drive. And this came out with the last few models, the last submodels of the Model 30-286. It was the submodels before did a 20 megabyte and a 30 megabyte version. This is the 45 megabyte version that just had a little bit more space. And it's a Seagate drive. I haven't gone through, and it does, I just was wanting to show with the interface, that's a different size of interface. And this hard drive shares that same interface with the 20 megabyte and 30 megabyte versions. And I'll have to clean up the connector. I haven't even tried this drive yet. And this is going to be a very possible future video of putting this on Mul 30-286, and I'll have to see. I may have to make sure that it's got the last BIOS version on that Model 30-286, because a lot of time the recognition of the when the drive size increased is based on that. Now, this did lead. There was an announcement letter for this hard drive, the submodels with this hard drive, that was put out in April of 1991, rather late in the game. I mean, you're talking about it was an announcement letter for the Mul 30-286 submodels that had this drive. And you think in 1991, everybody was starting to get into the 486 level at that point. 386s were probably the big standard that was out there, and then people were just starting to get in, gain those 46 DX systems. It wasn't long after that I went out there and bought, a clone system for my dad's business that was a 46 CPU in it. So these were that submodel was rather late, and there is a few videos on YouTube that have seen that announcement letter and claim that the Mul 30-286, all the Muls, or the initial version of it, was released in 1991, and that's incorrect data. So, as I said, on the riser for the 50Z, and that's the other thing that the 50Z improved, was that hard drive was a lot faster. This thing is slow, and this is an MFM controller for the Mul 50. And so I went through, when this drive showed bad with the same code, I thought, gee, I've got another one of these controllers around, don't I? I showed it when I did the video. And here it is. And I went through and replaced the riser. Just gentle pressure. Don't break anything. Okay, and we're going to put in the... I did try exactly from the sequence of the last drive I found. Of that, and these are 20 megabyte drives. I mean, the Mul 50 truly is called... if you look at the Mul and submul, it's 8550. But if it's a -021... that was the only version that really came out with the 20 megabyte disk. And that distinguished itself from the 50Z had 8550 and the model number as well, but had different submodels to distinguish the sizes of drives. And typically that came with a 30 megabyte DBA ESDI drive was the minimum level that did, and then you started to even gain into some of the 60 megabytes and some of the other larger sizes that the DBA ESDI did for that standard. So I'm going to get the screen capture on. We've got that new controller here. Now I did also have that, and I tried initially running, when I was seeing hard drive errors, I tried running the reference diskette here, and I don't have a label. I need to get labels on my diskette to say this is a reference diskette for the MUL 50 and 60. Also covers the 50Z. So we have that on the side. And with the system, I also did, strangely enough, I have my system information tool diskette, but this is a bootable diskette, and that's going to come in at a later point here. But I'm gonna get the screen capture up on the screen. I'll probably reduce this section and kind of see if I can just minimize it and put it off in a section of the screen, so we still have a little bit of the SkyCam view. And I just have to, I've got these, on my OBS as I'm going through and recording, then I get messages on YouTube, and thanks, Chris, for responding. But I have to go through and get those out of the way before I pause the video. Or maybe I can just let people view me from the back here as I go through. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to power the system on. And I do have information up on my LCD display over here, just to be able to see the same things. So we got the beep, and it booted to the hard drive. So no hard drive errors. And this third disk, in fact, I'll probably spend the most time on this, just because I may need some help. I mean, this is not an LGR video. I'm not necessarily a big game player, or those vintage games. That just wasn't my thing. And as we can see here, we've got, even for this append statement, the long path, this games, SCC, games, animal, games, Amy, and then the WordPerfect 5.1. So at least they did some word processing on this system. And then it's appending more information into the games/animal, which I think they already had in the path statement, and games/Amy, which they already had in the path as well. So that append statement is superfluous in this case. So I'm going to do a directory and just with the pause, so it gives us a screen full at a time. And it looks like it's loaded the mouse driver as well. And this is even 6.25 mouse driver. I mean, normally you'll see the layer versions, you'll see 8, 9, stuff like that when they added the start adding the scroll wheels and things like that. So Kermit, and we're not talking about Kermit the Frog. Kermit, and I'll get some comments on this too, is ultimately a terminal program. So that's not a game. That's not like Frogger or anything like that, trying to cross the road, getting run over by the cars. Anything to do with the Muppets at all. It's a terminal program. And we have the Edlin line editor that's common with the PC-DOS side. And, we've got the, could be interesting looking through the config back and config sys, going through to see what the changes over time. But you see the dates on those. In 1988, for that last time that config sys was modified. And it wasn't me to modify that. long time ago in April of 1988. And you got to realize that that is a year after the PS2s were introduced. They were introduced in April of 1987. Make me feel older than what I am. So we have that golf directory. We have I can probably go through and kind of cruise through. Let's cruise through the directory listing first. So we got golf, we got tank, we got this games directory that probably sounds like it's got other stuff in it as well. Simple SQ. I'm not sure what that is, and that's just a file with no file extension at all. MSCQ root. I don't have any idea for that as well. The AutoExec BAT, at least that was modified in 1994. But again, that wasn't me at all. Probably that maybe it was an Amy that was loading those games or something else, or going through and adding that append statement in there. The WordPerfect 5.1, whatever Ono is, whatever A10 is, other than I know I'm familiar with the Air Force plane, the Warthog. I love them Warthogs. Talil Air Force Base, Iraq. That's where the Warthogs were. MOS stats. And that's a file without any extension on it, just 16 bytes long. We have Orion. I think I looked into that directory a little bit earlier. We can look at that again. I don't think it's referring to a person there. It's referring to some sort of game or something. Mathcast. I'm not familiar with what Mathcast is. PK Unzip. Good utility for unzipping files back in the day. Predecessor to all the 7-zip and all that are WinZip that we went through. We have a hockey directory. We have our mouse 1 directory, and it's just probably got the mouse driver in there. We have a big box directory. We've got a Yogi directory. We've got a spell GOM, spell game. Strike in a game. I'm going to press the key. I'm not going to strike the key. We're striking it less hard than... Okay, so we have a castles subdirectory. Like a ADV, maybe like Adventure 350. And then we have the Ellen Backup. And that's that line editor again. Mass CMP directory. MBook subdirectory. KEdit. Maybe that's an editor or something else. Word. GALL. A Starfire directory. A Book 1 subdirectory. Max IRD30 directory. SHII or SH2 maybe in the meaning. Anthill directory. Quest directory. Some people maybe recognize it. Then we have our DOS and our EN200 directory. And speaking of DOS, we're going to do Burr. And this is with the config sys, it's a year after the initial release of the PS2s anyway. And certainly you could do upgrades without affecting your config sys necessarily, but typically it's gonna change it or things like that with the new DOS versions. But this is 3.3 DOS, PC DOS, or personal computer DOS 3.30 that came out when the about the same time as when the PS2s came out. So I have to remember, or we go in reverse order of what are things. We can probably just we can get into the Kermit directory just to see show what's in there. I didn't look through it before. Huh. Okay. I mean, it is a terminal program, but I don't know what Gandalf.bat does. Maybe somebody can go through and answer. I mean, let me do a pause on that. And again, we're not going to get into too long of video or anything like that, but it has the various terminal types and the way to transfer. CompUSA. Receiver, maybe? Or, CompuServe. CompuServe. Big name back in the day. And then we have that first dash readme and things like that. I'm not wanting to really just get in there and dig down. I can get comments and look in this in more detail, maybe in little mini videos or something like that. But we're going to end up with a long video, undoubtedly, again. But just some of the terminal types. VT52 was one of those terminal types that was a relatively standard thing. And then you have some batch files, phone bat, that may go through and do a dialing. Something in that sense. I think I maybe used Kermit a little bit back in the day, but I'm not real familiar with it now. If I did, I should have ran a pause. I mean, I could have gone through and ran things in kind of reverse order on the screen. Golf. Just remember, golf, tank, and games for the next directories that we'll do. Okay, we'll go to golf. We will do a directory. Wow. So much of these have more than one screen. And even some BAS files there. I mean, I'm wondering if that is that basic. We have a golf exe. Golf. And you have to see the hard drive light. It's here on the power supply. Is just it's a going. And this is what we encounter with these. The level of these. The Model 50 was not really, in particular, in the drive and the performance. Even though the CPU is at 10 megahertz, 286 CPU, and then I have a 287 coprocessor on this one as well. So look here, in one of the modes is even MCGA 320 by 200 at 4-color mode. And EGA, VGA, Hercules, even Hercules. Wow. And then you've got your Tandy selections too. And we'll just do VGA. That's what we got. Locked demo. I don't know if I want to. We might even want to just view the demo or something. There's documentation here too. I just have the onboard speaker. Let's do sound. Let's find out what it. I don't know what the volume's at anyway. Let's go medium volume. Okay. And now I've not played golf in real life as much. We say IRL, right? In real life. And there's that hard drive again, and please wait. I think with them all 50, we're going to be in a please wait condition a lot. Maybe more useful than the Skycam would be having the webcam on, focused on the front of the system. And it's still going through. That hard drive access slide is still on. Okay, went out. Flicker a little bit. I don't know how visible that is. Please wait went away. Now, I thought this was supposed to be some demo, too. Man, look at that screen paint. Whew. And I don't know how much you guys can hear the sound. It did a whoosh for the club. Oh, it's talking a little bit. Yeah, I could have probably pumped up the volume or had... Is that where he throws the club down and throws a fit? Oh, I missed an easy putt.
Can't be too happy about that one.
Can't be too happy about that one. Okay, how do I exit the demo? Escape. Q for quit. I mean, that's why I should know more, right? Is well, the hard drive is accessing, but I don't know if it's. I mean, it's going to take a long time to get out of this. Probably as much time as it took to get into it. I don't know if that was a good idea for me to. It shows what's on the screen, I guess. I'm trying to do escape and okay, I see something painting up at the top that maybe it's taking me back to a menu or something. Gotta be some way to get out of this. Do a little bit more. Mess up the screen. I think I'm just going to do a Control-Delete. And that doesn't even look like it's doing anything. Maybe I should have studied a little bit more on how to escape out of the demos or whatever. We'll get it back up and going here. I don't know how many demos I'll go through. I just want to show a little bit of what's on this hard drive and maybe just fishing for comments too. People can tell me they recognize a certain level of game or not. Okay. And we're going to go to Tank next. I might just do a directory listing for these. Tank exe, Tank doc. And get to look at, you know, who knows. Maybe can play around some of these. So Amy, Animal, Sorry, Break, Big Rig, SCC, Ribbit, and PKXArc was a program to zip stuff up. So the PKXArc and the PK Unzip, probably they're receiving diskettes that are compressed files on that diskette, and then it's spanning it. And then we have this maybe like a Marjan, maybe? I don't know. Hangman in the Games Animal subdirectory. Okay. MakeIcon.com. Make list. Mosaic.com. Huh. Okay, and this has some alphabets. Alphabet.com. A clock game, maybe? In there. Let's go all the way back to root directory. And as I said, I would appreciate if anybody's got input into this stuff. I mean, I don't want to go through and run WordPerfect 5.1. I don't remember enough of the sequences, but that's a good standard version out there of WordPerfect. Was the 5.1 for DOS. So I was going to go into the Ano. I guess I could have read other subdirectories as well. We'll go into some of these by random. And the hard drive kind of doing the same thing that, I mean, it goes through and it, for several seconds, it makes and it goes through and does that some few times, just reading from a particular area on the drive. And let me keep track of the time as well. It's over a half hour. I probably don't want to get to... this is still going through that drive. We're getting pictures up now, though. Now, I could put that Kingston upgrade on here, make it a little bit faster. And, of course, it's got a megabyte of memory, too, which probably is not... doesn't make it the fastest system around either. Still going through with a blank screen, still accessing that hard drive. How many computer... Oh. Is it like an Uno? But it's an Ano. How many computer players? Oh, and we even have a mouse pointer. Human's turn. So, maybe I can do an LGR kind of video sometimes, or get into, start getting into games for... This program is dedicated to Carolyn, and we got the little ASCII smiley face there. Distributed as shareware. So please send a donation of $5 to the address below to Alan in Speedway, Indiana. Be interesting to, I mean, that'd be kind of creepy anyway, but be interesting to look. And now I have a, well, I guess that was bold or bright white. I guess my text is still the same on the screen. A10. And our PK Zip utility again. A10.com even has an installation program. Our bitmaps and stuff like that. I don't think I'm going to play anything more, and just in the interest of time, I'm going to, or go actually get into the programs. I'm just going to. So Ryan and Mathcast and hockey. sm.exe. And we have our manuals and things like that. I could go through and I could read and I could catch up a little bit more of what these are. What did I say? Math? Did I say Mathcast? And that's got that castle stuff in there. Well, if you know what this stuff up is, make comments. I'll have a little bit more hockey. I don't necessarily want to look at the mouse 1 directory. I just think that's a mouse driver in there. And then hockey, big box, and Yogi. I guess I could be more conservative in my typing, just to switch using my change directory a little bit better than I do. Okay. Wordlist.exe. The vendor doc, register doc. A lot of these look like shareware. Which I don't know if I have to explain the concept of what shareware is back in the day. Maybe I should. Or maybe we can get somebody with a real good comment of saying what shareware's all about. In that time of the BBSs and sharing, like I did as a teenager, sharing those diskettes with other people that played games on the Commodore 64. Yogi. And by all means, if anybody's out there and knows what Yogi, or maybe through, we have our spell game, castles, let's do Starfire and Anthill. Starfire.exe. Anthill. What did we say that last one was? Quest. So even a directory listing is causing the hard drive. And these things, I mean, the alignment and everything else, these things are, on the Model 50, they're flat. They're flat in that, on that drive platform. So there's not really any, if they were on their sides or anything like that for, like the Model 60 and 80 have, to where that, as the disc rotates, and that, where you could have, but yeah, I would say that this is going to be just if it's trying to pull up a directory of this, I'm just going to Control-Alt-Delete. I'm going to let it boot up again. I think we've seen enough of that particular drive. As I was saying, that, you know, the just over 40 minutes. It's with an idea that I just didn't want to be so long. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to power down. And this is a lot of the sequence I did before. Is I once I had the drive going, I went through and I looked it over a little bit, not to the depth that we just did, but went around the main directory and just looked at some of the things. And I saw the games on there, and I thought, well, that's going to be a good enough video. Bump the SkyCam here. Boy. It's 2 tabs. Not all that challenging. Okay. So I don't have the SkyCam bobbing around so badly. Let's go with our you know, I want to keep a watch. That power supply is probably normal operating temperatures. We want to go through and look around in there a little bit. The CPU is a little bit above 100 degrees. So we got that second drive in there. Go through and power that up. And I'll have to go through and definitely you find bad part, mark it as such. I'll go through and I'll mark that thing as bad, and I don't know if there's any thought of trying to reflow or anything else here. So booting up, and we get, the hard drive access comes on, and it's going through and, trying to read the hard drive. I mean, it gave us the starting MS-DOS menu. So we got this bad or missing command interpreter, incorrect name of command interpreter, and when I hit this, and it was a good troubleshooting step for me, because I thought, well, I have the system information tool. It's a bootable diskette. Why don't I just put that in the diskette drive and Control-Alt-Delete. And I mean, as we saw with that last subdirectory on the first drive, being the last drive I found, these drives over time, I certainly expect that they going through, and if I were to low-level format them and go through and rebuild the drive, I mean, I think everything would function correctly, although a little bit slow. But that's kind of a normal thing for these old drives, as it were. Okay, and since I don't have an autoexec.bat, I get prompted time and date. And, just on this diskette drive, just all that much. I even have the SCSI level on here, even though we don't have SCSI on this. And I've been updating that table here lately, last couple days, making some new additions to that and updating that. But we're going to try, and I don't even think it's necessarily worth going through the SIT program. I'm just going to do a directory C before I go on there. And okay, so let's actually go over to in fact, let me do the directory listing for the A drive again, just to kind of show one little particular thing. It told us the bad or missing command com, and as we can see on that hard drive version, it's got the it marked as a time at the very top there, the 6:22A, and that's version numbering. That's what they used to do back in the day for version numbering on files, and that means MS-DOS 6.22. But down further, we have that IBM BioCom and IBM DOS.com. Normally, those were the hidden files of the drive that worked with Command Com. And those are the IBM files. So it looks like somebody copied over the command.com for MS-DOS 6.22 and didn't realize that that doesn't go through and work in that instance. It's got to coordinate with those two files that are normally hidden in, of course, the MS-DOS versions. So I may even have to look at those files of the IBM bio.com and IBM DOS.com and see if I can figure out what versions of PC-DOS that those were with and restore that version of Command Com to get operational here. Because it's just going to have, that hard drive is going to have to be booted from, well, it's going to have to, the system's going to have to boot from a diskette drive and to method to my madness here. And it has that park C command parks the heads of the hard drive. That's a good program to have on all those drives. And actually, before I power the system off and everything else, I should be parking the heads of these systems. Just because that was kind of the last. The drives on this were just that last thing that when you had to park heads back in the day with PC XTs and PCs and ATs. And with once it got to the DBA ESDI drives and things forward from that, you didn't have to really manually park the heads anymore. What I wanted to show here is the okay. I was thinking that would show. Oh, I got to do A/AH. Okay. Directory /AH H. And that's what I'm doing is I'm saying displays files with specified attributes with the A, and then H is the hidden files. And before this, I did the slash question mark to get the parameters that I should be typing. So on the MS-DOS side, there's that IOSys, and that replaces the IBM bio.com, and then MS-DOS.sys, and that is the replaces the other thing. And then it's even got that drive space.bin as a hidden file. Okay. But hidden on that diskette, when I create that diskette as a system diskette, copies those files over. We're going to go over to the C drive. We're going to do a directory listing. Now, it's the command.com that's from the diskette is the one that's loaded into memory. That's what it's function off of, to be able to operate the computer. And it knows that diskette is in there if it has to reference the command.com. But we're in the resident portion of DOS now in memory, so it doesn't have to access that diskette drive every time we go through and do something. But this has a WordStar directory. Woo! Save directory, whatever they saved back in 1996. A BAT, which is maybe a batch file directory. Xtree, another blast from the past. Our DOS directory, and that would have also the, should have the command.com in there as well in the DOS directory. Our safe directory, but that MS-DOS-sys, what I was about to say, is it replaces the IBM DOS.com. And that's just the formats that they have. And I don't know why those aren't hidden files with the PC DOS. And Microsoft went through and had their versions as hidden files. But that's what we had to do. So it's worth having a boot diskette around. Even though the hard drive is operational, not able to boot off of it. So we're going to go through. In fact, let's go through. I'm going to do Park C. And it didn't even give us any messages, but it returned to the DOS prompt, and it's most likely that the heads are parked, and I don't want to do any other commands from this point. Just powering the system off. Let's see if I can hit these inject into diskette. See if I can get these. I don't know why I'm just not wanting to be so forceful. With these plastic tabs. Okay. So that's our drive that, like I say, I had the spare, and then I tried it with the old controller. At least the heads are parked for it, and I may have to copy that head parking utility. So we've got that original drive in, the drive that was on the system when I kind of uncovered it. And we are going to power that on. Just looking how I have the SkyCams up. And getting close to 55 minutes. So I think it's going to be rather quick on here, and I'd just rather have an hour video. I don't need to go into excessively long, but I'd love to just spend the time exploring that first drive and all those games. But and again, it's saying blank screen here. Hard drive access light coming on. I suppose I could do this, and I have a lot of. I'll probably have a lot of glow from the. I have too much glow from the screens I have here anyway. I thought that'd be a better way, and we're still having that hard drive access light on. Just not going anywhere at all. It is the hard drive access light on the drive itself is a red LED, interesting enough. And it is flickering and looks like it's trying to read the drive. But we didn't have a hard drive error come up at all, which is a good thing. I can give this a few more moments because it still has the access light on. See if it's going to go anywhere or do anything for us. That hard drive light is still flickering a little bit. You see it on the front panel, the yellow indicator just doesn't flicker. It with the LED, it looks constant. But on the drive itself, the LED, I mean, you can see it's mostly on, but flickering with activity. But here, I'm going to say it's probably just it's not going to go through. Now, when I did this before with this drive, it ultimately ended up, and it may go through. I may have waited long enough to where it told me non-system disk, and I think that disk just going into a condition to where it is having a hard time, and it needs to be just needs to be rebuilt. So I've put the boot diskette in the drive again. It's going through and reading that diskette. So we get our starting MS-DOS and a little bit more. See, and it's after 8 p.m. here. So I'm going to go through, let's just do a directory of C. So we see that, and it's not necessarily marking anything as necessarily bad or anything like that. I mean, it looks like the capacity of the 20 megabytes. Let's go to the C drive. And that command.com that's here, and we could do the same thing. We could do a directory /AH, and then there's that IOSys and MS-DOS. So that's that with the 5:00A. That's MS-DOS version 5. But for some reason, that doesn't seem to be where the drive's in a good enough shape to boot to that MS-DOS 5. We only have that one directory on here of the Norton. Okay, and we have our format.com and fdisk.com, and those are the and even the command.coms in that Norton directory. This is kind of like a would be the repair tools as it could be for a drive. And I don't, by the file dates and everything else there, I don't think I'm the, well, it looks like version numbering and things like that. The NDD, the Norton Disk Doctor is what NDD is. It has an INI file, and that's back in 96 is when the last time that was done. Norton initialization file. So, I mean, and normally you'd have these, as it shows for the 18 files, being about a megabyte in size. So normally you'd have this on a diskette. You'd actually boot from, in fact, so it didn't find those hidden files. It's got command.com in there. But I was thinking there's somebody, and probably they didn't know enough to copy over the hidden files. Those hidden files to make that, or what I'm meaning is they probably just copied over these files from a diskette onto the hard drive itself. Because, I mean, if you run Norton Disk Doctor or something like that, you'd typically you'd want to run it from another drive, the program from another drive to check over the drive that you want to test. But it could be done this way, I guess, as well. But it looks like somebody is, and I don't know if this is me or not. In the past, I've forgotten a lot of things. But maybe I copied over that stuff and just copied over a diskette to the hard drive of the Norton Disk Doctor, the things I could do to go through and try and fix this drive. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. You'd normally want that program on a diskette or something that you're running and having it check the drive, because this drive works. We're able to see things to it, but it's got issues. It needs to be rebuilt. So we're having trouble reading from the drive C. Standard abort, retry, ignore, fail. And it knows that, hey, I got my command com in that diskette drive, and I've got to load it to get back to where I was. And so, this disk, barring having it rebuilt, it's functional. But I was just so happy to switch the controller. I'm gonna get in front of the grab my drink. And we are over an hour. I was glad to have the second controller on hand, and I guess the point behind all this is to just not think of things as bad. And man, I went through 3 hard drives and they all showed us bad. But look at the problem a little bit more. If there's something like that MFM controller board in there, can I change that out? Do I have another one? Do I have another spare? And I need to get in a little bit more in the habit. I've done it in the past, but as I say, get out the Post-it note and say, and even red lettering. And you want to go through and do things like the date and things like that. Bad, and then the date and everything else that you tested it and everything else. And as you remember, I had to swap out diskette drives and things like that on this system. Make sure I don't, transfer any sparks around. I still have a lot of the static electricity happening. Test things. Make sure a component's good and go through and just kind of try and break the problem solving steps in half as you go through them, because you could be pleasantly surprised that all 3 disks work to limited functionality we've seen. The last disk I found, bam, that's right on. That works. The second one we tested needs a little help. It doesn't have that command com. I could go through on that DOS directory. I could get that command, maybe the correct command.com out there again, where it's supposed to be, to get those sequenced better and get it to boot off of that unknowing person that did that, just to say, yeah, copy MS-DOS 6.22 command.com over there onto the root directory of this hard drive. That's got to work, right? That's got to boot. No, there's normally two hidden files with MS-DOS sys that are associated with that. You've got to, worry about. And so there may be a chance I can get that second disk, booting and everything else. This third one, and I've got that. Now the thing to remember here now, these files are on the hard drive that is having a little bit of trouble. If I copy those back off the hard drive to a diskette, are those going to be functional enough? No harm. I could try, but that's something you have to consider. I don't know why that Norton Disk Doctor and things like that were copied over to the hard drive instead of just leaving those on diskette and trying to fix the error of the hard drive to get it operational once again. And I can maybe go through. There's some hidden stuff on the reference diskettes too. Sometimes on the system, that Control A gets you into some of the advanced places to go through and low-level format those hard drives and things like that. With this third disk, that might even be a good enough. Certainly I'm going to do the work. I don't know if I would go through and record it again. That may be the thing to do, is I have that reference diskette right there, and maybe we can do that in video. I'll put that down as a video idea, and we'll work from this drive, because I'm not worried about. I'll copy over all the Norton stuff off of that onto a diskette at the beginning of the video, but I'm not worried about the contents of it otherwise. And I have to make sure that I've got enough of a boot. I can certainly do it. I can format and sys it from a diskette to rebuild that hard drive once I have low-level formatted on it. But that's a good video idea. Let's go through and we could rebuild this hard drive that we've got in there now, the one that was originally on the system anyway, and go through and rebuild it and see if we can get it operational. If not, we swap in the other one, including like the last disc I found. It's got all those games. And certainly if you want to see those games, and maybe I can go through for broken into different segments for playing the games, and stay a little bit more, how do I escape out of the game, or in this cases where the system hangs, but if you have an interest in seeing some of those games a little bit further, I don't just want to have a boring video, or just a video that it takes a long time. That I don't know how people are going to respond to that. I would like to help explain the tools and the use of the reference diskettes for rebuilding hard drives. the gameplay stuff and everything else. See if you can turn me into LGR to Clint. Great channel, by the way. That's just not my, but that's not my, it's not my thing. I watch his blurbs more than necessarily of him going through and trying some of the games. And he just goes through short segments anyway of those games. He doesn't have a whole video on playing certain things. But if you know what those games are, you've heard them before or anything else, leave a comment. Let's get those comments coming in. And I'll respond to them as they come in. Let me know what you think about the video, of this, of the sequence I went through to figure out that hard drive controller being bad, and if I demonstrated it well enough of the things I did once I got the controller working. I was real surprised to go through 3 drives and say these are all functional at some levels, and it's a good example of all between the 3 of what you can end up with. A drive that boots perfect, a drive that needs a little help to boot, and a drive that is just so far gone it's going to need to be entirely rebuilt. So, again, like that video. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you have not already, pass the word. We will have a lot of content like this. And it was one of those off-the-wall videos that I had when working with the system just a little bit ago. And that is all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.